This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Oh my God, he left. What a punk ass. I hope he's okay. Anyways, just wanted to do a quick little hangout tonight. Lunar Girl, how's it going? Frank is in the house. And I don't know what happened to my special guest tonight. Yeah, so we were supposed to record tonight our episode on the evolution of the nerd, but that kind of got sidetracked a little bit by, life. But, we're sitting here chatting with another Red Fiver, and he said he'd join me. Had nothing else to do, and here he is, speaking of which. Nice.
I figured if I dropped immediately, then it would sell the whole everyone's inebriated, and this was totally unplanned. Did it work?
We'll have to ask the folks in the chat. Were you guys fooled that we were all inebriated? Me drinking from my Stormtrooper flask. This was a gift.
They would totally believe.
Yeah, this was a gift, by the way, by one of our lovely Chicago NBC reporters.
Nice.
Natalie Martinez. Thank you very much for that.
She clearly knows you.
She clearly knows that I am a drunk Star Wars fan.
No,
awesome.
You're pre-gaming.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
It means, well, it's sports ball term.
There you go. That's why.
There you go.
Hello there, Talking Star Wars. Glad you could make it. Again, we're just kind of chit-chatting, not really doing anything specific, talking anything, unless you want to. I mean, you've got some topics that you want to kill time with. Something's going on your keyboard there. Is that you?
Me?
Yeah, I heard all sorts of funny things.
I sure hope not.
Yeah, so... we were just, right before we got on the air, we were talking about our wonderful T-shirts that Disney is starting to pull. And the one that you have on is definitely, it was actually our very first T-shirt, the Scarif podcast with the Shore Trooper. That was basically our logo for many years. And it was finally removed by the powers that be, which is fine because, we rebranded, and everything is new. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer. We also had one of my favorite T-shirts removed. The Friends Don't Let Friends Fly X-Wings. Very Imperial minded. Of course, we're both wearing Rebel hats, but
right.
But that's okay. We're trying to confuse our fans, our audience here, so that's awesome. But yeah, it's I understand. It's kind of sad, but I guess it's their property. I really don't have that big of a complaint. We're lucky we sold a few T-shirts with the help of our friends.
I take a little different tack to it. For me, it's one of those things where it's not stuff that they are necessarily putting out there, but it is stuff that the fans are putting out there, and it is going to essentially, propagate Star Wars amongst people who may or may not have come to it already. So I don't think it necessarily hurts. I mean, it's one thing if you're doing something that directly infringes on a product that they're planning on putting out there, but a lot of the stuff that they're canceling just is stuff that has Star Wars in the tag. Whether it's directly and thoroughly related to it or not. And I don't know. I mean, you got to kind of weigh the difference between whether it's actually infringing on something that they're planning on doing or whether it is just them.
Sure, and I can see that. From a business standpoint, I can see that everybody wants to protect their IP. Greetings, exalted ones. You are the exalted one. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Master Skywalker's in the house. So we got a couple of new designs, and obviously the one that I'm wearing today. I was wearing your T-shirt earlier, but I have my little Welcome to the Empire tee. A little parody of a parody, if you will, but no harm, no foul. Anyways, we have a really good question in the chat regarding some Star Wars topics. But first of all, I want to say congratulations. Welcome back to the podcast world. I know you were out for health reasons, installing your new iron lung or exoskeleton. Not lung, not liver.
Livers are printed by Pat and Charles from the Conversations podcast, so thankful to them. But no, and honestly, that is kind of still in flux, man. I completely shredded my quadriceps tendon in my left leg back just after Christmas. I thought it was all repaired, but it keeps buckling. So they just sent me in for another MRI yesterday, but I'm just going to power through it. So whatever the case may be, going to keep podcasting and just not going to let it distract me. Get back to what I'm
excellent. Yeah. And you just you released your first one after a long hiatus.
Yep.
Wonderful things. Even before Brad left to go blow shit up out in the South Sea or wherever it is that he's at, we wanted to do an episode with you about Jocasta Nu, and I don't think he was very about that topic. Obviously, you being the archivist at the Jedi Temple Archives, I think that would have been a pretty interesting topic. We would have been able to kind of talk about all the secrets that Master Jocasta was guarding, and I know she popped in one of the Cavan Scott books. I think Great. Jedi Lost. So those that topic would have been a lot of fun. I think we are still in the running. Hopefully, when he comes back, definitely going to team up with you on a whole bunch of different things. But what are some of the other topics that you're interested in covering on JTA, brother?
Well, definitely one of the things that I have been talking with a couple of people about doing at some point here in the near future is kind of a Star Wars Generations episode. We talk about it all the time. You and I are certainly fans of the original trilogy and have kind of come to Star Wars through that. But there's a lot of fans who have come to it through the prequels, through the sequel trilogy, through some of the animated series like Clone Wars and Rebels and even Resistance. And now The Mandalorian. So depending on where the age of a person lies, it's kind of whatever their first touch point is with Star Wars is what kind of connects with them, and they will defend it to the grave. I mean, we know that as the OT fans, the prequel trilogy kind of had some things about it that made us cringe, but you talk to people who were kids when that prequel trilogy was out, and they love it. They don't see any of the flaws. They just see the awesomeness. So it's just a really interesting, aspect of Star Wars. There's very few franchises that have lasted as long as Star Wars has and have had the opportunity for this to be, a phenomenon. And I just want to kind of dig into that a little bit.
Absolutely. And, there's all sorts of jumping points. Master Skywalker talking about legends and obviously the stories of the Legends timeline. The Legends stories are always something to kind of revisit, but it's pretty vast. Like you said, this franchise obviously has survived and have, I think the fans are the ones that are pumping so much energy back into it, and it's older guys like us that. For me personally, I find it very interesting that these younger fans are finding the franchise through the cartoons and the animated series, and then obviously, like you said, through a generational effort, dads, dads and moms checking out some sort of Star Wars program with their little ones. I see, obviously, Yoshi Vu, our pal Yoshi, with the new baby, just listening to Star Wars music and getting that blood pumping that way. So it's really amazing. I think it's great. I did that with my son. My son is 16 now, and we grew up watching Clone Wars and things like that. So we're still doing the Bad Batch. So it's kind of cool. That generational story is really it's something special, and I think it's something that is part of this franchise when it comes to finding new fans.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because you can have someone, like you talked about, these adults that grew up in the original trilogy era that have younger children, and really the first thing that they expose them to in a lot of cases is OT Star Wars. And they will connect with that.
Sure.
Unless they just happen to find it on their own through some other means. It was interesting. My son, I didn't kind of force him into Star Wars per se, but Star Wars Angry Birds was one of his first exposures to Star Wars, and that's what drew him in. And then he was interested in it and kind of got into some of the films and stuff. But it's super interesting to me, kind of what brings people into the Star Wars universe. We've seen a huge phenomenon with The Mandalorian and all the people who are not necessarily sci-fi fans that have come in based on Baby Yoda, right? And obviously that's reflected with all the merchandise that's out there, but there are a ton of ways that people can come to Star Wars, and whatever it is, that first touch point with them, it just seems to imprint on them, and that's kind of what drives their fandom.
Absolutely. I think it's really great. And like you said, there's a lot of general movie-going fans that have found the Star Wars franchise through The Mandalorian, through Disney streaming, and I think it's good. It kind of brings in new blood into the fans, and it gives us an opportunity, especially for folks like us that have content and like to talk about this stuff, to kind of bring in new fresh eyes and ears and stuff like that. Somebody earlier today posed a question that a lot of us Red Fivers answered. With some very interesting, responses. Somebody posted, "What is it about Star Wars fans that makes you special?" I think, what was the one differentiating thing about us fans that I guess connected us with that? And a lot of people said passion. A lot of people said the love of the franchise. And I think that obviously they're all right, but I think if it came down to one word, how would you describe that?
Oh, man.
Besides lunacy.
Well, lunacy is always a good one, but yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to come up with a great one. One word?
One word. I mean, I said passion, and it really does, it really is all encompassing. I mean, whether you're passionate about The Empire Strikes Back being the greatest movie ever, or you're passionate about another film being the greatest movie ever, whatever. But just as long as I think, I think it's it's a word that pretty much you can draw and infer a whole bunch of different things. Master Skywalker just said escapism. Obviously, yes.
I'd probably go with family. The interesting thing about Star Wars is that's really what Lucas was driving toward when he created the original trilogy, and really the 9-film arc of the Skywalker saga. It was about family. It was about the fact that even though you have a family member that maybe falls to the dark side, they're not irredeemable. And everything about Star Wars is about family. You look at The Mandalorian, it's about, the clan and the Mando basically taking on the child as his family. And you look at really every aspect of Star Wars. There's so many threads of family, even when it's not like the nuclear family that we would know. And maybe that's what speaks to it today, even more so than back in the 70s when this first came out, is that it doesn't have to be your birth family. It could be, the family you develop with the people around you. And you see that a lot through the expanded universe and the Jedi that Luke Skywalker creates there, and you see it through all the films, and it's just a common thread that resonates through Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, and again, since we are doing this impromptu, we had no plans to really, chat about anything specific, but we do have a very special guest that just popped into the green room, and he's itching to come in and talk to us a little bit. So let's bring him in. My friend and yours, Mr. Sean, from another Star Wars podcast.
What's going on, everybody?
Fantastic. How are you tonight?
I'm just done filming a little bit of content creation this evening.
Excellent.
Lots of green screen, so I'm like, F it, we're going to continue with the green screen tonight. So
Excellent.
All green screen behind me as well.
I love it. It's fantastic, and I wish there was a little green screen on Roe so he would disappear as well.
I'm putting it in the wrong spot. I'm going to put it over here.
I missed all of the conversation, so I'll just jump in when we get to something.
We're just talking about. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was going to say we were talking about the use of midgets in Star Wars.
Okay, perfect. Droids, Jawas,
Ugnaughts.
yes, Ugnaughts.
Or family. It was one of those two. I can't remember which.
One of those two. So we're just talking about how the general aspect or the generational aspect of Star Wars, and how I think something like that, like family, like you were saying, has really taken a hold of the lifeblood of bringing in new fans through the animation, through the comics, through the novels, through everything now, obviously, that are there's so many jumping points for new fans to just kind of get in. And I know a lot of people find it almost daunting. Where do I start? Guys like us, we started at the beginning, watching that original one, back in the caveman days. I remember, Star Wars being projected on the cave wall. It's pretty cool. And like I said, you're slightly younger than us. I can tell because of your
my posture,
your posture,
right.
and your muscular physique.
Interesting.
Bowed and
just a
broken
shirt.
like the rest of us.
I can speak to the family aspect because obviously I'm 32, so I have a couple kids now. They're growing up. One's 4.
Oh wow. I was your age when I was 32.
Me too. No. And you think to yourself, how am I going to influence this young person to watch a movie from 1978, right? So it's like, how do we introduce that kind of stuff? And we start with just putting it on.
Sure.
Put it on in the background, and hopefully they ask questions. And my daughter, very much infatuated with BB-8, with Rey. Gets it totally, really into it. We had a lot of BB-8 stuff. That concept that J.J. Abrams came up with was perfect. For the new generation coming up. And as we get down, I already have her first children's book in the High Republic. So where do you start with that? Well, with her, it's just a children's book, and it's literally about a Wookiee saving the day. Very, very simple story to understand. But if you're reading the High Republic like I am, that person makes a lot of sense in light of the Jedi. So for me, I was like, we get a little bit of a different take on the Great Disaster or whatever. So there's a lot of, where do you start? It's one of the reasons why I never really read into Legends. I didn't have a roadmap. I had no idea where to start. I didn't know there were books post Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Honestly, that was one of the things that got me started with my podcast. My wife, who was a Star Wars fan that had seen the films, but she hadn't seen any of the additional content, had so many questions about Star Wars. Who is this person? Why do they matter? Why do they fixate on this? And so it was just an opportunity to kind of focus on some of these characters, some of these places, some of these events, and explain them a little bit to someone who maybe isn't that super fan that everyone sees out there. And, it's super cool to see, there's a ton of people out there that have loved Star Wars from childhood, whenever that was, and have followed Star Wars since then. But it's one thing to watch Star Wars or to read Star Wars. It's a whole nother to see people start to express it in other ways. And we see that with the podcast. We see that with some of the YouTube channels. We see that with people like, a Cam Ray that's out there creating this unique content that comes out of the sewer of his mind. I mean, the trash compactor of his mind. And it's hilarious. I love it. And the guys from Conversations that I talk to all the time, that come up with all these ridiculous takes on Star Wars stuff and commercials that we get in together on, and it's just hilarious to see the new content that gets created out of stuff that is stuff that every one of us maybe knows about, and it's just a fun new way to express it.
Absolutely. It's there's kind of a phenomena that we're all experiencing, and I think a lot of us experience it from time to time. We get burned out. We get burned out on life. We get burned out on our daily grind, and Master Skywalker said it earlier. It's about escapism, and sometimes we get a little cynical with our takes, and we don't let the 12-year-old in us kind of re-experience those experiences that we fell in love with, especially when it comes to this franchise. And I think when we get back to it, one of the things that I found so interesting is that during Star Wars Celebration 2019 here in Chicago, I was watching a lot of the angry YouTubers do their thing, and realizing that they were all headed to Chicago, and I was like thinking, there's going to be like a riot between those people and the people that don't subscribe to that mentality. There's going to be a rumble, West Side Story style, and you get there, and it's a whole different thing. I see these guys that are usually pumping their fist and angry at life on YouTube and at Star Wars, enjoying themselves with everybody else. Everybody's got a Star Wars hat on or a shirt or something, and they're just geeking out the same way we are. And I think a lot of times we have to remember that we were kids watching this stuff, and why we have to remind ourselves why we enjoy it. I think it frees our mind. I think it kind of resets our sensibilities in a way that probably nothing else does, especially for someone like me that loves movies and escapism and fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. I think we have to kind of remind ourselves every so often that it's kind of refreshing to kind of get into that. I don't know what and yeah, I probably, this is probably 3 beers talking, but I don't know what you guys think about that. After that rambling.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. What were you saying? No, I think opinions change over time. I hold the original trilogy and up in the high esteem. However, I had watched the special edition, so that was my edition. I don't know anything different because that's just what it is. So then, like, if I have a person on the Tweeterbird site coming at me saying that I'm wrong, and I don't really get into it too much on Twitter because I like my real job in life, and there's no reason to get all sassy on a fake website. It's like
I'm right here.
I'm sorry, and it's like I don't have time for you.
I don't blame you.
It's just what it is. But I'm happy to have a conversation. If you feel that old Jabba animation looks great, that's on you, no problem. But I hope you enjoy it. And for me, it's my truth versus your truth. And we'll meet in the middle somewhere, like with Rose Love of the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Ouch. Blasters fired.
I'm sizzling
Blasters fired. Oh no.
He's gone.
He is gone.
He's dead to me.
Hold on.
Invisibility
cloak.
There you go.
Ooh, it's very Harry Potter.
Very nice. Yeah, but it is what it is. I think back in the day we only had 1 or 2 movies and 3 movies, and it started to grow. So there's a lot now that we can kind of sink our teeth into, and just having fun, man. Just having fun.
It's interesting because you look at the original trilogy, and it was so far beyond the technology of the day. which is, I think, what made it stand out amongst everything else that was being put out. Plus the fact that it was very optimistic in a very dark time in cinema. And then we kind of went into that, I always refer to it as the dark times. Obi-Wan's always talking to Luke about the dark times before the Emperor. This was the dark times.
Hold on a second. DJ's got, okay, it's the only way we can justify things that go on in the real world to make sense of it all. We find a pathway that connects the Datsun. I used to have a Datsun back in the 70s.
What are we talking about? The Yellow Pages? What are we talking
about? I don't know.
About?
I think maybe Charlie's been drinking more than anybody.
He did say he took a Benadryl earlier.
That's right.
100% be the medicine.
Datsun. Gotcha.
Right. That's like a dot matrix printer. Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly. But sorry, Rob. I just had to kind of break in there.
No, it was one of those things where you had the original trilogy. It was groundbreaking. It was amazing. It was so different than everything else that was out there. Then we had this period of time where we didn't think we'd ever see Star Wars again. And then they started coming out with these books. And someone had asked a question earlier, what was your favorite Star Wars, expanded universe, aka Legends novel? And for me, it was that whole trilogy that came out after the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was kind of the original Star Wars novel. But Heir to the Empire and that whole trilogy, which was supposed to be, at the time, we were led to believe it was going to be episode 7, 8, 9 of Star Wars. And they introduced Thrawn, who was this completely different type of bad guy. You almost could understand where he was coming from. He almost made you kind of want to root for the Empire in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so that was really, it delved into the characters a lot more. And then, obviously the EU kind of went off into its own, realm of insanity to some extent. But we finally get this prequel trilogy. And then you get Lucas, who is then taking technology and pushing it once again, pushing the envelope once again, maybe too far, to the point where you have actors that have never acted against green screens before. And that probably played a lot into some of the adult reaction to the prequel trilogy, regardless of how good these actors are. You have a Natalie Portman who has won awards for her acting in other scenarios. But to act against this thing that's not there was not something anyone had done at the time. So it's he always pushed the envelope with technology. It just worked in some instances better than it did in others. But the kids never seemed to care.
Speaking back to Thrawn, because I didn't know about Heir to the Empire, and I probably would have loved the series. I'm planning on buying it eventually. I'm going to get the series as a whole. And
are you talking about the original Thrawn trilogies?
1991. Yeah. I'm looking it up right now. I don't have this stored in my brain. Yep. And I mean, I'm 3. You know what I mean? So I don't know anything about this. I'm 3 years old, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
So my first Thrawn experience is in Rebels.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going, oh, this is a cool character. And guess what? How you felt about that character, Rob, is exactly how I felt about that character.
Right.
Years later.
Right.
Decades later, the same feeling. And that's the beauty of storytelling. It actually doesn't matter when it came out, because we both felt the same way.
I would be interested for you to read the Heir to the Empire trilogy and then to have a conversation about Thrawn, because the reality is he's a different character in the two, but he has a lot of similarities. That cultured master tactician aspect is still there, but he's a darker character in Heir to the Empire. And you almost don't mind how his story turns out there, as opposed to Rebels, where it's left more open-ended, where you could almost see him being convinced to fight on the side of the rebellion if he understood kind of the impetus behind that. And I think that's a really interesting thing about that character, is that they brought him back years and years and years later from when he was first introduced, and they kind of brought back the best parts of him in a way that would work with Star Wars today. So again, we'll leave that for later. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Yeah,
I've read the trilogy, the 3 new ones that happen with Vader. Yeah, I love that story of them going back and forth, and he's like, "I know who you are, dude. You're not fooling anybody." Great books. haven't read the second one in the, I guess what it would be his prequel, right?
Right.
Chaos Ascending or whatever it is. So that's in the chamber, but I'm looking forward to reading that. So yeah, what a great connection.
Absolutely.
And both sets they were both written by Timothy Zahn, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. How great must it be for an author to kind of revisit a character, after years of thinking that he's forgotten, and then especially have him come to life in animation? I mean, that's got to be wild for Timothy Zahn to experience that. I think that's really cool.
I want his eyes to glow more in the animated series. It's more like a pale pink as opposed to the glowing ember red that they have.
I'm sure we'll get the Thrawn drop at the end of Ahsoka season 1, which will just be bananas. On Disney Plus, and I hope I'm praying they're going to have some sort of major like made for Disney Plus movie crossover with Premier Access being $49.99 because it's Star Wars IP, and and they will get money, right?
Yep.
You will buy it, and could you imagine like Thrawn is the baddie, and it's like Ahsoka, Mando, Boba's there, Fennec,
sure,
and it's like we got to take this guy down, and guess what? Ezra's with him. You know what I mean?
I've got a flip take on that. I could totally see Ezra turning Thrawn and having him come back on the other side. So I guess that's my sick, twisted fantasy. But
I love it. I hope so. Oh, I'm praying. I mean, it's a great setup for it. Right now, that's a great story to tell. Unlike the one we're getting with Bad Batch, where they're just trying to loophole everything inside each other.
Thank you.
I'm not a fan of Bad Batch at the moment.
You're my new best friend.
Hey, Rob, see, I told you we would get along.
I would tell you that with Bad Batch, I think that they're doing a good job of kind of putting in some filler content or some context content for things that have come before. But the overall Bad Batch main arc is a little empty for me so far.
Yeah.
So Sean, let me ask you about that, since we're touching on Bad Batch. What is it that is missing the mark for you?
Well, I was hoping that we would get more Bad Batch arcies, like how they're dealing with the Empire, but they've focused the show on a character that, until we were introduced, never existed. And now they're running into the same exact problem that Grogu is going to run into, where they're going to run out of time on the story, and they have to deal with it. Grogu doesn't exist in the sequel trilogy as far as we know, unless they want to write him in later. Omega does not exist in any part of this story.
Which I'm okay with.
Which I'm fine with. I mean, I don't like the idea of bringing in a character to satisfy a certain part of the fan base because they feel they need to. Sorry. If it's meaningful, sure.
Be more specific.
No, I won't. But it's like, is Omega going to be the creation of the Ghost Crew? Like, is that where we're going with this? Because
wait. Is Omega going to be the
so
creation?
Like Hera Syndulla, right?
Right.
Is big in is captain of the Ghost and the Ghost Crew and Rebels. Is like Omega the reason why she becomes a rebel?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is that what they're leading this down to? Is that how they're going to tie it in eventually? Because obviously she's going to have a lot of influence. It's 2 episodes in a row where Hera's in it, which I love, by the way. I love young Hera. I think that's awesome. Great connection. Lovely. Sort of shoehorny, but okay. And not in a good way, Ro. You know what I'm saying, buddy? And, we'll see. I mean, there are some good episodes with Bad Batch. I like Sid as a character. I think that's a good plot telling device to get them out on missions and whatever. Sure. That's fine. But
yeah, let me just say this about Omega and the creation of the Ghost Crew. I think I don't know where they're going with that, but I can kind of see, this is the last 2 episodes kind of had a kind of a prequel-y feel to Rebels.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hera's a lot younger. I don't really see this being an avenue to tell the story of how the Ghost Crew got together. How many more episodes of Bad Batch do we have? Like 4?
58. No, I don't know.
No. So I don't see that. Obviously there's a lot more room to tell that story if they choose to. And lost my train of thought. But I don't really see too much of them trying to say, hey, Omega's the reason why Hera became a rebel. Right. I think her father obviously and her family are plenty of reason enough for her to kind of take that mantle. So I really don't think that it's an Omega thing that kind of makes her become a rebel or an operative in that rebel cell that they end up starting. I do feel that and I talked about this I think on one of our quick cuts episode with Chantel. There's one of the things that I find very interesting now, especially now that the sequel trilogy exists way over here. Mm-hmm. So there's the story that we know, and here is The Mandalorian, and here is Bad Batch, and some of the things in Bad Batch and some of the things I would dare to say in Mandalorian are designed to somehow connect with the events of the sequel trilogy, which is way over here. So to your point, Sean, if the Bad Batch, if Omega ends up being so let's take the context, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, Omega being the final solution to something. And what I think is she is the final solution to Palpatine's messing around with force sensitive clones so he can have another backup plan in case his first backup plan doesn't work, which in this case is having Anakin become one of the most powerful dark side force users ever, and he jumps when Palpatine dies, he jumps into him. And that is a storyline that was taken in the Dark Horse comic books a couple of years ago. I think, Sean, you were 4,
Dark
maybe?
Empire, yeah.
Right. So...
Yes, I was 4.
I've got the originals in the closet over here.
Yeah, definitely. But, so let me ask you guys this. Like, how do you guys relate to stories that we're seeing now? And how they relate to the sequel trilogy stories that we know how they're going to end up. So are these stories important to tell from our point of view? Are they worth it? Because like I said, we know where this road is leading. Or do we just, shut up and then just kind of, take it for the ride that it is and just enjoy it? What do you think?
Rob, I'll defer to you because I spoke to this on Quick Cuts a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that it's a big galaxy, right? So we know something. We don't know everything. My thing is that for like Mandalorian, yeah, it ties into some other things, but it's telling its own story. It's telling the story of Din Djarin. The issue that I have with Bad Batch is that it's kind of alluding to all these little things. How did Jabba get his rank, or what was Saw Gerrera doing at the time of Order 66 or shortly thereafter? But there's no real story that's being told about the Bad Batch other than the fact that they're kind of moving around the galaxy in a way that ties into these other stories. Oh, here's Hera Syndulla. They just seem to be a plot device for filling in information or giving us little addendums to things we already know, as opposed to telling a story of their own.
Yeah, I agree with you. Take away the characters we know in Bad Batch, and there is no story.
Right.
You're 100% right. It does not stand on its own right now, unlike The Mandalorian, in which it does.
Right.
It is telling a very... And I think that's where the writing is making a lot more sense. They've learned a lot from the mistakes of the past, and they were creating their Mandoverse, a la MCU, which they should, because it makes sense to do it like that. Right. And they're having the Book of Boba Fett. That's going to tie into this. That's going to tie into Ahsoka. I hope Rangers of the New Republic ends up coming out in some way, shape, or form. I think that would be a great series just to have that. It could suddenly tie into X-Wing, right? The movie.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't really know when that's supposed to be happening and the time. But Bad Batch is stuck in the middle of storylines where people put a bunch of sticky notes on a board and said, all right, I'll do this one. And then they never talk to each other again. So they're just trying to figure out how to make it all work. And the way they're doing that is by trying to fake it. They're faking it right now as they're telling these stories. But like, we're so looking forward to Mandalorian season 3. I think collectively, almost as a fan base, I very rarely do I see someone's like, nah, Mando's not good.
Right.
Whoa.
I don't think there's ever been an animated Star Wars series in the last 10 years that I have felt like Dave Filoni was less involved with than the Bad Batch.
Are you counting? Are you counting Resistance too?
Yeah, which is frightening. Because
that
was my low bar previously.
Yeah, I mean, Resistance was it was geared really to really, really younger kids. 2 seasons, and my son and I watched it. We enjoyed it for what it was. But let me ask you this: getting back to your assertion that the Bad Batch, it seems like they're just kind of going on filler missions instead of really concentrating on a story. I think. For the most part, I think the both Disney shows, streaming wise, including the Mandalorian and Bad Batch, Mandalorian kind of had that aspect to it where it was almost like the A-Team mission of the week, where whenever they really got into the nitty gritty about finding Grogu or finding a Jedi, or when the Empire were involved, that's when I thought that the main story was on point. But when they went to this village and rescued the villagers from that one walker and this and that, those are the stories that for me, I don't like to use the word filler, but those for me were like kind of like side missions. They were getting away from finding a Jedi and seeing what's up with Grogu and all the main and meaty stuff that we were really introduced to towards the very early episodes of The Mandalorian. And the Bad Batch is the same way. And obviously, I think the Bad Batch might be a little bit more character-driven because let me tell you, when they first popped up in Season 7, I didn't like them at all. I was very surprised that they announced that they were going to be coming out with a Bad Batch series. I'm like, I'm going to hate it. Watching every episode, I don't hate it. And actually, one of the reasons I love it is because of the characters. They, again, Dave Filoni has, turned on a dime here when it comes to the characters that he, stewards so well. I mean, we all know that Ahsoka came out. She was a pissy little teenager. Everybody didn't like her, but now she's a fan favorite. And the same thing with this. I mean, I didn't like the Bad Batch when they first came out, and now I'm really connected to the Big Lug Wrecker. But I think it's more. This series seems to be a little bit more character driven, and I know a lot of people have said this in the past that they're preparing us emotionally for something. There's a reason why folks don't refer to the Bad Batch in the future, and I think we're heading towards a really dark turn in this series because the creators know that we're a lot older, and I think folks that are older might be able to handle something as dramatic as maybe what's to come. My 2 cents.
I mean, I don't like the Bad Batch because of the Bad Batch themselves.
Right.
I like all the characters. I think all the characters are great. Tech, Echo, they're all awesome. In my opinion, I liked seeing them. Their little 4-episode arc I think they had in season 7. I wasn't really a Clone Wars person. That came out when I was in college. So I missed it. I missed the boat on that. I caught it back when it was on. What'd you say?
You had better things to do?
You know what? I almost had nothing to do.
Oh.
But I caught it all on Netflix, but now I was able to kind of watch it back to back, and I'm like, why aren't these stories making sense? Like, when does this happen? When does that happen? And it's like, why do I have to look up Wikipedia to understand this arc? It's like, who told this story? So right there, the Clone Wars never really told a straight story. It was like, all right, we're going to check up on this on Felucia now. for a few episodes and then go here and then go there. And then eventually, I think after it got canceled, but remember, it got canceled.
Yeah.
And then brought back. Why do you think shows get canceled? Because no one likes them. You know, they're not making money. You know,
That
and
wasn't
then
the case with the Clone Wars, though.
why were they? They ended the story, right?
Yeah, it was around the time that they started negotiating the deal with the sale to Disney. So that's
Right.
kind of what threw the. It was a unique
Wrench.
situation for them. I mean, they were still
Yeah.
pretty popular,
Okay.
which is why they brought it back.
But yeah, it makes sense. And I know everybody was very excited about that. And I'm sure I'm making enemies in chat and all 4 people. And
Two of them are me.
yeah, and one of them's me. So Clone Wars was fine for me. I did not like Ahsoka. I liked her a lot as she grew up, I guess. Like, I read the book, you know, in the canon. Like, I have no problems with that. I like that they're bringing these characters, you know, they're absolutely utilizing the popularity of these characters in the new stories and then nicely tying them in with new characters. Like, to go in the Sorgan, you call that filler. I call that Mandalorian verse building. You know, remember, we had to watch Iron Man 3.
Well, you
Not a
didn't have
great
to.
movie.
You
know?
didn't have to.
You didn't have
I
to.
mean,
You
you're
kind of
right.
felt
You
like
don't
you
have
had
to,
to, right?
but it does build some character a little bit. You know, so I think the future post OT before ST is like I have no problems with what they're doing right there. I think they do have to eventually go way back. You know, they got to get away from. I mean, the High Republic's a good start, but
Old
it's,
Republic.
It's still too close to characters we know. They are still going to run into the issue of how are we going to tie this to pod racing on Tatooine? You know, like what are we going to get, like books on the mechanics of pod racing and the origins of it all, and then that's going to tie into the, you know, Sebulba's birth. You know, it's like who cares? But no one should have to watch Iron Man 3. But
You don't have those books yet?
which ones?
The books you were just referring to. I was all going to tie into pod racing on Tatooine.
I'm writing them actually right
okay,
now.
good.
That's what I'm doing. But if they end up going, there's actually a small inclination in the newest High Republic book about ancient lightsaber battles. And if they use the word ancient, I'm saying that's thousands of years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And if that is in a quote unquote canon book, then I'm feeling they're going to go back eventually.
sure.
You know, they announce a remake of Knights of the Old Republic, the entire, you know, nerdom will unify
Sure.
in one. What great games, you know, if they bring back these characters and whatever, and then they can do whatever they want
Yeah.
because there's no stories right now. You know, and that would be great. I mean, it's such a blank slate, empty whiteboard, no lesson, no plan. You don't have to worry about anything. You just tell a good story and go from there. But we're 20 years from that, I would say. I think.
I would agree. Look, I mean, for me, the Bad Batch, even if it's working towards some massive sacrifice, I felt like they did in Rogue One. In the course of 2 hours, they took a group of people I'd never heard of and made me care when they all died.
Yeah. Agree.
So it shouldn't take an entire season to get me to the point where I still don't care if they all die. I'm actually, in some cases, cheering for that.
Well, it has to happen. It's
Right.
it's the Grogu theory. Something's
Right.
got to happen with him. Something's got to happen with Omega. You know, the theory that she becomes part of Palpatine's fault tolerance data backup plan is fine for me. You know, as a tech person, I think you should have multiple backup plans, off-site, on-site. You know, fine, okay, if that's the story you want to tell, that would have been nice to know. You know, in December of 2019, but we didn't get it. You know, and that's fine, and cool. No problem. You're trying to fix an error, and I get that. But when it comes down to it, does anybody care that Wrecker? I mean, maybe Ro, you'll care a little bit that Wrecker bites it.
No,
Yeah,
we're ignoring the possibility of a Star Wars multiverse.
Oh God. That's
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
We are definitely ignoring that, Rob.
I mean,
Thanks.
They can go into the world between worlds, which was introduced
They
in
could.
Rebels, right?
Yeah.
A superior show to Clone Wars. Just kidding. Everybody calm down. I'm down, everybody.
Well, there's we can argue about that, but there are really some great moments in Rebels. Obviously, I don't know. I like them both. Somebody posted a question. Was that you? No, somebody posted a question. What animated show did folks or did you like better? Clone Wars.
Yeah. I watched Rebels live, and I think that makes a big difference. On Disney XD and appointment television. Like this is coming out 8 p.m. I don't know, 9 p.m. on Fridays, maybe 10 a.m. Saturday mornings. It's a cartoon.
Right.
And I remember. Well, spoiler alert. And everybody watch it. And this, when I think end of season 3 or season, some kind of mid-season finale with Caleb Dune. Just great television. Mm-hmm. Couldn't believe what I was watching. And still, actually the same argument. They've got to take care of these Jedi that exist before the Jedi we know, and how are they going to do it? And I cared about the characters, all of the Ghost Squadron characters, and was so happy to see them in Rogue One, and happy to see the ship in Rise of Skywalker. Loved everything about that. Great job overall about tying it all together and whatever. I'm so happy a lot of them survived. And that's a good example of them doing it right.
Right.
And it's maybe they're trying to repeat that formula, but I don't know, for some of the new stuff it's not hitting for me.
Right.
That's okay, by the way. It's okay. It's not the hit.
By the way, does your T-shirt say testicles?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to shore that up. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you for looking at my testicles. No, it says test. It says test out. So
I see. I got you.
It's an online computer program that we used to teach the children in high school how to.
I couldn't see your fuzzy muff was blocking your testicles.
Thank you. Hope everybody enjoys that.
And this is the Scarif After Dark portion of the
show. we've entered. We've crossed the threshold. We don't know what's going to happen now.
Rubber Beast has quizzicals on his shirt.
Yes. So, what kind of other non-Star Wars geekery are you guys looking forward to? What's out there? Any? When's the last time you guys went to the movies? What'd you guys see?
Oh, ages. I want to see the new Dune.
Yeah, that looks
but I'll
interesting.
probably see it on HBO Max if it comes out there at the same time it comes out in the theater. So
I started watching the original Dune and had to turn it off.
I'm sorry. I watched it. I watched it kind of in the era it was intended for.
Yeah.
And so it was less painful. But to go back and rewatch it now,
and there's a lot of very familiar actors in that.
Yeah,
there is.
Sure. I'm like looking. I'm like, oh wow, Captain Picard's in that, and Sting.
Yeah.
I'd have to look up. I used to have the AMC Premiere A-list subscription, like the $20 a month, go see 3 movies a week sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
And then when the pandemic hit, they put everything on hold, obviously. Right. And I just got an email from them. It was like, oh, by the way, if you don't renew, we're going to cancel you out. And I'm like, cool, because I don't really have time to go. I would literally go see movies at like 9 p.m.
Right.
Like after the kids go to bed.
Yeah.
And now I'm on Scarif After Dark, so I don't have time to go to the movies anymore. Thank
you, Nicole, for that. Scarif After Dark. Yeah, that's going to be a new hashtag. But so, Rob, you have not been to a movie theater in ages?
God, I'm trying to remember the last film I saw in the theater.
And Sean, either?
I am currently looking up the last movie that I went through.
It may well be Avengers Endgame. That was the last film I saw in the theater.
Yeah.
I have to actually go back. Let's go back to 2020.
Wow.
Which would make sense. And it's actually January 8th, Frozen 2.
Awesome.
With my then 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, no.
Maybe 3-year-old at that point. Yeah, 2.5. Yeah.
And
then prior is The Rise of Skywalker. Actually, would be the last big feature.
Sure. I went to go see Black Widow in the movie theater. Just like Nicole.
By the way.
What did you say?
It's racist, by the way. Can't call it Black Widow anymore.
Unbelievable. I do want to see that in I almost pulled the trigger
Yeah.
on Premiere Access.
And
I had the card out, and I'm like, all right, do it.
It's just so great to just go back to the movie theater. I'm just sitting there with with my buddies from work, and it's one of those things that I hope movie theaters never go away. One of the refreshing things that I found when I was sitting in the movie theater watching the previews, I was very surprised that a lot of the previews, when the tag says coming soon, none of them said HBO Max and movie theaters at the same time. And they all said, coming soon, theaters only, theaters only, theaters only. And I was kind of happy about that because, one, I don't have HBO Max. But two, I just really love just sitting in a dark movie theater and eating my popcorn, drinking my soda, and watching, and just getting, again, that escapism. Sitting in a theater really plays a big part of that for me. It's a lot different than watching a first run movie in your home. Yeah, you're more, I don't know, for some you might be a little bit more comfortable, but there's a lot more distractions, and you don't get that, I don't know, you just don't get that community, that sense of community with other strangers,
I agree.
Evoking that emotion at the same time, whether it's laughter or fear or oohs and ahs. I think that's a big part of why I love movies, and I'm sure it's a big part of why folks in general love movies.
You sure it's not just that your wife caught on to you cutting a hole in the bottom of the popcorn bucket?
Oh my God.
After dark.
It is after dark, so.
It was probably the size of a dime. Anyway.
Wow.
I love the movie theater. I go frequently. I don't think Endgame would have been the same. I went to Endgame by myself on opening night.
And that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah, and with a bunch of other people, and as a non-Marvel comic person, because I'd never really got into it, to hear grown men scream at Captain America grabbing the hammer, was incredible. Like looking around, like, look at all these losers. I'm one of you. This is great. Like, what an awesome moment. You're not getting that at home,
right?
Now maybe with an animated movie like Raya. Mm-hmm. You get kid, you have kids, they're not going to sit still. I'm very conscious. I'm a conscious parent where I'm like, listen, we're going to the movies. You're not allowed to move. There's no moving. You can't.
No moving. Yeah.
No moving. Stay in the seat.
Right.
That's it. That's the rules. So at home, I'm like, well, you don't have to deal with like people looking at you funny, and whatever. So maybe that's a good reason. I don't care about cost. I like the theater enough to go like cost will never be an issue. It's just like, all right, it's a $12 movie times 4. Get your popcorn. Who cares? Just when you get the rewards card, just pile them up.
Sure.
Like just give me all the points. And then I'll get my $2 off in 3 years, and it's gonna be great. It's
exactly.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. It's such a great experience.
We'll talk after to find out what rewards program that is, because I'd love to upgrade to $2 off a year.
Yeah. I don't even know if I have any points left. How's that sound?
You don't.
I do. I have a $5 reward. I have 9,801 points available.
Nice.
No, I mean, to Rose's point, I agree that the film watching or the film viewing experience in theaters is superior. That sense of community, the fact that even during the prequels, less so during the sequel trilogy, other than Force Awakens, you go and you watch it with a group of people who are willing to go on opening night, and you get that surge of excitement when the film starts.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the kind of thing that you just can't get at home, unless someone wins the lottery, I guess, while you're watching the film. But it was pretty, it's pretty unique to the theater, and it's something that really I would be sad if it went away.
Can you guys talk a little bit about what do you guys remember what your most awesome movie experience was for whatever reason? What was that? Like when you were younger? You remember that at all? Whether it was, a physical interaction with the movie.
I don't want to talk about physical interactions at the movie theater.
Well, you brought up the hole in the popcorn, so I'm just open it out. Open it up.
In the popcorn, small, like tiny, optom. Okay. I mean, I always James Bond movies are a good memory because I always go with Dad.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a great tradition that we do. So I'm looking forward to the next one coming out, No Time to Die. So that was something to look forward to. He's the first one I go with Star Wars movie, so that's traditional. That's cool. I went out to all the Harry Potter 12 a.m. showings when that was really popular. I remember watching Hedwig getting killed across the stage. Somebody was cosplaying as Hedwig and someone killed him. And like he left the theater. I'm like, what just happened? Like, you don't see that at home. This is awesome. So things about that. I remember going to a 12 a.m. showing of, I think it was Deathly Hallows Part 2, and like opens it on this high mountaintop. I'm like, this is gonna be good. Like, I know this is gonna be good. And like then there's a car and I'm like, okay, weird. Usually broomsticks, but keep going. They played Fast and the Furious 7. I'm like, we're not in the right theater. What is going on here? They messed up the reel. They put the wrong reel on. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Incredible. So like those little moments like that is awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously,
they counted that as viewership for Fast and the Furious 7, right?
Yeah.
That's how they do it.
I did go with my family, so
All about family.
Yeah. Rob?
Someone asked how much a theater ticket goes for. For me, $12.89 in my area.
Yeah, for me it depends. Like we have IMAX screens or 3D or one audio versus another. I don't know what it is.
4D moving seats and all that stuff. Yeah, it depends.
Oh my God, 4DX! I saw Rise of Skywalker in 4DX. And it was incredible. Like, if I didn't see the movie and tried to watch it in 4DX, stupid.
What's 4DX? Ryan Johnson spits at your face?
The seats move with the film.
The seats move with the film. You get smoke screens. You get water.
Wow.
You get, like, fog. Like, it's actually really cool. But, like, see the movie first so you don't get distracted by it. But, like, in the Falcon, you're feeling all the bumps and undulations and stuff like that. So that was a cool experience. That was, like, $25. Definitely worth it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't see it every time, but definitely
at least once, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was before
at Disneyland
Menace came out. What? Someone say Disneyland?
Yeah,
What are you
think it was
about?
Captain EO. It had
It was Disney World, but
Disney World. Yeah, it had because I think it was. Because I was in California, so it was Disneyland. Because I had never been to Disney World up until recently. But Captain EO had that same thing, the smoke screen and the water coming at you. So, George and Michael were hamming it up back then, too.
and then you leave and your kids have to go into therapy. But whatever.
I really wish I knew what Captain Neo was. I'm not even going to ask you about it. I don't even care.
It's the Michael Jackson, like, Disney. Yeah.
Oh, Michael Jackson at a theme park. That sounds promising.
Right.
Sounds promising.
Produced by George Lucas. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Throw in a little George Lucas, and you got a winner.
Nice.
No, for me it was Phantom. Right before Phantom Menace came out, they kind of re-released the remastered version of all the Star Wars films, and they were doing the watch all three of them back to back to back to back, and then you could watch Phantom Menace at the theater when it came out. So we did that, and there was a ton of energy, a lot of cosplay. It was just a great experience. So there's never been anything that I've experienced at the theater like that.
Yeah, I do enjoy the marathon-y, type of AMC theaters. I think they had the Infinity Saga Marathon, which was just like a trial.
Yes.
Or something along those lines. And I dressed up for Force Awakens opening night, for sure. I was dressed up in full Jedi garb.
Nice.
Which was nice. Went with 7 of my buds. So, and I remember, I planned that.
Were you the only one dressed?
We had somebody was wearing like Chewbacca pajamas and stuff like that. I was not the only one dressed there.
Right.
Out of my group, I was the only one dressed. Everybody else was naked. And
I just want to give a shout out to Holo Chronicles.
Whoa.
They just joined us in the chat. Thank you, and that might be Andy. Maybe it's Josh, but welcome, Holo Chronicles. We're just talking about nothing in particular. Sean is making some rude comments about the hole in my popcorn bucket, but
right. Rose mentioned my testicles several times on show.
and we have now coined this Scarif After Dark.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really cool as far as the marathons. So back real fast, back in 1978, Battlestar Galactica, the movie was released. was released in the theaters, and I remember the projectionist had the volume so loud that that when the Colonial Vipers launched from the Galactica, the seats rumbled, and I thought, like, as a kid, I thought that was amazing. So every time there was an explosion, every time there was a ship thrust, it just I'm being careful with my words there, Sean. But it was really, really good. Yeah.
That was just the guy behind you.
Exactly.
Why are the floors so sticky?
Wow. Someone spilled their pop, right?
And then I was at a Star Trek marathon when they were showing The Undiscovered Country, but before that they showed the 5 previous films back to back. And it was an event called Sit Long and Prosper. And it was basically 6 movies from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I had a blast. My ass was numb for hours and days afterwards. And again, no, Rob, it was not the guy behind me.
This is getting a little bit difficult to keep under control. We're into the 12 o'clock hour on the East Coast. And nothing good ever happens after 2. Just remember, that's rules.
Yep.
The rules of the road.
Too funny. But yeah, Dale is in the house. Thanks, Dale, for joining us. What time is it over here? I don't even know what day it is today.
It is 7:22.
7:22. No, it's The
logo for the company was Erdman Electric. Let us check your shorts.
That's awesome.
Great logo. Great tag, please.
Yeah.
Phrase line, phrase tag.
Everyone needs a motto like that.
Yeah, great motto.
Yes.
What's a motto with you?
With you.
Yeah. So theater experience.
It's impressive that the more and more sad this show gets, the more people show up in the chat.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I know.
You're onto something, Ro.
Exactly. So as far as like other geeky stuff, what did we say? What are we looking forward to? I'm really looking forward to Cassian Andor.
Okay.
I saw some gunner
because he's Mexican. He's going to be wearing a serape. Oh man, Google it.
I imagine you'll be seeing Andor midday during your siesta.
Oh.
I wanted to see if that was going to hit without having to say it out loud. And I had
to
say it out loud.
Without having to explain it to Ro. It's time to wrap this.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I did see Space Jam yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
That is out on HBO Max.
On purpose?
My daughter wanted to see it. She's 4. She was glued.
The only reason to see a show like that.
Right? Glued into it. And I'm watching it going, I feel like they did this before. Because it was almost beat for beat.
Really? Yeah.
The first movie.
Sure.
With obviously updated concepts. But the best part for me about the movie was all the Warner Brother cameos in it.
Yeah.
It was actually better than Ready Player One in its cameo game. For sure. 100%. So there was, I'd say like 40% of that movie is decent, and then the rest of it is a phone movie. You look at your phone while you watch the movie, and you can get the concept of it. But
I saw someone talking about the fact that they didn't understand why he picked all the Looney Tunes characters instead of like the DC superheroes.
He mentioned it. Actually, he did. In the movie, he's literally saying, all right, we got to pick a team, and we have the entire Warnerverse and the server. Yep. And he's listed Batman, Superman, this, and they go to the different. I'm just going to tell you the plot line. They go to the different worlds,
right?
And they are not interested in joining because the Looney Tunes have been dispersed away and have annoyed those people so much that they're just trying to get rid of them. That's the concept.
So they're like the
That's-
Washington Generals of the cartoon universe.
That's the idea that made it past the conference, baby. That's what stuck. That was the best idea they had. There were probably other ones.
Makes perfect sense.
It is a bold statement, Frank, because the book was so much better than the movie. The movie stunk.
Yeah, it didn't get the accolades that they were hoping, and obviously, with somebody like Steven Spielberg behind it, I'm
They
very
couldn't
surprised.
get the IPs. I mean, Disney was like, "You're not using any of our Star Wars stuff in your movie." You know what I mean? Like they just couldn't do it to the scope that Ready Player One was. I mean, I listened to that book for in the car and was like, wow, this is awesome. This has everything you need to be a geek fandom in the 80s, 90s, or whatever. And then the movie was just a letdown. It's just like
the Iron Giant reference, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, but he was also in Space Jam, so it's like the same.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's such a letdown. Was Kylo Ren in there too? Because that would have been a letdown too.
Ready Player One was the poor man's Matrix.
Wow.
Which cost twice as much.
Yeah, and cost twice as much. Indeed. I love The Matrix. Oh, that's a movie that's coming out.
Roger that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why isn't Lawrence Fishburne in this movie? Or are they just messing with us and he is going to show up in this movie? Are they messing with us?
There'll be a cameo.
There has to be, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, you know what I watched last night? Speaking of remakes and rehashes, Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I'm sorry.
I actually enjoyed it.
I'm extra sorry.
I'd like to report that I have never seen any Bill and Ted movie.
Yeah, they're again sign of the times, especially the original one. I'm actually really. You can tell that the actors were really having fun with getting back on board with their takes on two goofy characters from 1989. So I liked it. I enjoyed it, and yeah, who knows? They better not make another one. Just leave it alone.
You might enjoy it even more.
That'd be Bill and Ted's funeral arrangements.
Shots fired in the chat.
Yeah.
What are we talking about over there? But
Frank is saying that Ready Player One is better than The Last Jedi, and I will not stand for that.
Good thing you're sitting.
Exactly. Well, we don't really know. I could be standing. We did mention little people earlier in this.
There are hills I'm willing to die on, and the Last Jedi conversation is one of them.
I'm dead.
How uphill are we talking about?
It doesn't matter. It could be a vertical, 90-degree vertical drop. Could be more than 90 degrees.
So let's get back to Star Wars. What do you guys think about casting news for Obi-Wan? I know every so often.
Staying away from it. I don't know anything about any casting news outside of Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen.
Then we don't want to spoil it for you.
I know.
I know what we've already gotten. We've already gotten unfollowed by a good friend of ours for posting some rumors out there. So
were these rumors dealing with the casting? Is that the latest news?
Yeah, there were some rumors that were dealing with the casting, and then I thought that was kind of cool.
If it has nothing to do with the storyline, I don't care about the cast. We can conjecture.
Carry on. I mean, there are certain times when casting, there's no other reference that you can make other than kind of make up why this person was cast, because that means that a certain character is going to be in it, which makes you think, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
they might be following a certain storyline. So
I got a spoiler. He dies in a movie, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
this is straight up for fan service. This Kenobi, I'm super excited for it because I just love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, as most people do. And
you're going to be in for disappointment, though. Will Smith is going to be playing Obi-Wan, and Shaq is going to be playing Darth Vader.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they just said Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor were in Kenobi. They didn't say they were playing those roles.
Right.
Yeah.
The most thing I'm looking for. I'm wondering how they're going to fit Hayden into the whole story. I think that's something to look forward to. Whether or not Obi-Wan.
What do you mean Hayden?
I'm talking about my man Hayden, my man Anakin. How are they gonna do some flashbacky Clone Warsy things, or is he gonna be in the suit?
Hayden's not gonna be playing Darth Vader or Anakin. It's Jim Neighbors.
Right. Makes sense.
Wow.
I know you have a Vader suit, so are you going to be pulled in?
Okay, wait a minute. Time out. Danny DeVito is Yoda.
And Jim Neighbors.
I would pay for that right now.
Oh, man.
The Frank, that is genius.
That is.
Although he's a little bit short for a Yoda.
And one of our artist friends has to draw that because that would be hilarious.
It would be.
Yeah. What were you asking me about
the characters? Like, are we going to talk about it, or are we just going to putz around it? So is it characters that we've seen before in Clone Wars? Is that kind of what you're getting at? These casting announcements?
Let's see. One of them, the one that I got in trouble for, is a character that appears in Rebels.
Oh, okay.
And it had some very interesting implications for me as a fan of Order 66 and what happened with that, and obviously everything that we know. Cool. And then just the recent casting of a certain young lady that was cast that brings back a very important character to the Kenobi series, and people were like
Satine. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
Okay.
No. Somebody very important in the lore of Star Wars in general that people are like, how are they doing that? And why? So
it's Kathleen Kennedy.
I was actually thinking Rey Skywalker, but I think it's different times.
It is different times. But
you've told me nothing, and I appreciate you.
Can someone rein in the Frank, please? You got Kevin Hart as Chewbacca now. Just getting ridiculous. You have to borrow Pat's ladder from Conversations and still add a couple feet.
It's hilarious.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. No, if you want to stay spoiler free, look, I learned my lesson. They unfollowed all of my accounts. So
all 16 of your accounts.
I don't want to create any more strife.
Every time Scarif Scuttlebutt tweets, he gets 15 likes. 15 of them are from his own accounts. My impressions have risen exponentially since I created the ASW podcast Twitter handle.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage as a Palpatine would be a great Palpatine. That's what Backyard TARDIS in the chat has said. I think I agree.
It's a bad sign when the chat is far better than the actual show.
I know. Oh, man.
Wait, is it a potential Leia sighting in Kenobi? Is that what you're referring to? You can say yes. I don't really care. You're not going to hurt my feelings, by the way.
She's a fetus, but yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
How could she be a fetus?
No, she's not a fetus.
Okay.
We're really retconning this whole situation.
I mean, I would love to see some young Leia scenes on Alderaan. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Harlan Williams as Han Solo, but he's the same character in oh damn, what's that movie where they all get high and he's eating Funyuns? I forget. Half Baked.
Half Baked, yeah.
Sounds right.
Nice. Yeah, Leia sighting would be cool. I don't think that really changes the
No, we know, and
for me.
Yeah, and we know Leia, knew of Ben Kenobi.
Sure.
because he said, she at least was familiar with who he was, because she sent the plans to him.
So what are you guys thinking with regards to like plot of Kenobi? Are you thinking he's going to be on Tatooine guarding over Luke, like putting out fires?
A little bit.
Are you thinking he's going to go off planet, kind of redirect the Empire?
I think he has to, because he has to divert the Empire for two things. They can't find Luke,
right?
Even though he's got the same last name as
right.
Okay, and
they don't have a phone book, right?
Right. And he's got to make sure that he doesn't, fall victim of Order 66, because I think at this point there are still, besides Vader, there might still be Inquisitors out there looking for him. And
I would hope so.
And actually, that was the first thing, the first casting news that I read that made me really, kind of excited for maybe something that would show us, some Inquisitor action in live, live Star Wars. So I think that would be really, really interesting. Jim Carrey as Darth Maul. That I would love to see. I'm gonna have to Photoshop that tonight.
Do we know how many episodes this is going to be?
I think it's 6.
6.
It used to be. It used to be 8
long.
10, just 10 minutes.
Yeah. Used to be 8, and then they rewrote some stuff, and then now I think it's 6.
Okay. And Deborah Chow still in the helm.
Yeah.
Of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, that's when is it coming out? I haven't heard no news of this.
No, I'm not sure. Skywalker might be like the Smiths of like Star Wars. There's Skywalker down the street, and there's, the Smith last name might be very
according
common.
to Thrawn, Skywalker is a very common term. So I mean,
every Force sensitive that helped guide a ship through the perils of hyperspace in the unknown regions was a Skywalker.
Vader doing that, by the way, is incredible.
Again,
Yeah.
we're on the same wavelength.
It's what a. First off, I loved. I'm sorry, we're going to sidebar to Timothy Zahn and his ability to create double vision, right, and explain seeing things before it happened, and it's just like it's. I mean, everything that I imagined it would be is exactly what it was. How it was. Yeah, well, no, not third. So there was times where Vader would use the Force, and there would be a styling of writing where it would be called double vision.
Yeah,
and you would say, all right, I'm going to do this. I see him doing this, and then the action plays out.
Yeah,
and it's like it was really
It's the Sherlock Holmes, right? That stylistic thing they did with the Robert Downey Jr.
Right. Yes.
Sherlock Holmes films, where
That's
he would
good.
kind of see everything play out before it actually happened.
Yes. I enjoyed that. Oh, the Frank is following me, even though we hate each other. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you, buddy.
It's a hate-love relationship.
It is, and it's all love from me because I have a shirt that almost says testicles, and that's what Ro was thinking about earlier. Let's not forget about it.
Every time I look at you,
always thinking about testicles. He just happened to mention it tonight.
Every time I look at you.
Oh my God! Do you think we'll have a scene at the gravesite of Shmi Skywalker?
Only if it's a party.
Okay.
That's mean.
Oh, come on.
Just asking. Just asking. The Tatooine sands, they're always in motion, right?
Yes.
She's going to rise from the sands with Luke and Leia's sabers in her hands.
It'd be awesome. I'm in for episode 10.
Right.
It'll make me cry like Kevin Smith. I think he's always crying, though. Nicole Marie has a great question. I wonder if the Organas will show up in the Kenobi series. I would really love to see Jimmy Smits. He's been in. Yeah. He was in Rogue One. He was in the prequels. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I mean, if this casting news regarding young Leia is true, then we definitely could see that.
Wait, she's going to be in it? I'm just kidding. guys are jerks. Why would you say something like that?
Frank, no, I don't think we should ever see a Vader series because I think Darth Vader is one of those characters that, like, the more you see, the more he gets watered down. You know, they brought him in at the end of Rogue One, and it was just a perfect mix of badassery and anything more than that. I think there's not only is there a potential of watering his character down, but there's also a potential of them, messing it up.
High potential.
Well, based on what they're doing with the Bad Batch, I think they should do a Vader series where they really explore all the different tropes of Vader, but not actually tell a story about Vader at all.
No, they'll retcon him into finding out that Anakin actually had an inhibitor chip placed in his skull.
Nice.
It was never his choice.
That would be curious.
I think the chat is a lot more drunk than we are.
We're fading in an alarming rate, Ro.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Hey, this was a lot of fun, and I'm so happy and regret that I was here tonight.
Well, I appreciate you coming and regretting.
Sure, absolutely.
You and your testicles.
Thank you.
You're
your
welcome.
Fuzzy, whatever that thing is. But, guys, thank you very much for joining me. This was kind of an impromptu little get-together, little show about nothing. Sean, thank you very much for joining us here. And where can folks find you, and where can they go and follow you on one of your 17 different Star Wars podcasts?
Hey, we've done pretty good. We've kept it the same all throughout 2021 so far. If you want the variety and the weird, Extra Techie across all socials, if you're looking specifically for the Star Wars stuff, ASW Podcast. Although there's going to be some Star Wars stuff coming down the line on the YouTube channel. That's what I was filming before here. So
Nice.
doing some High Republic recaps where I'm going to make a series of videos as I read the book, more or less. So I'll read it so you don't have to, and you can get the recap of it real fast. And I'm banking on High Republic being in like mainstream media in the next 8 years in terms of like movies and TVs and stuff, like TV shows. So I'm hoping to just stay on top of all the content for that and kind of just make some more content out of it. So thanks for having me, Extra Techie.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And Rob, thank you again for commiserating with me tonight. We were supposed to be recording our episode 70, 78 or 70 something. I forgot. But life got in the way for one of our special guests. No worries. We'll get to record that sometime soon. We're going to be talking about the evolution of the nerd with 97 Bravo, Chantel and I. It's going to be a good discussion. So once we record it and then release it, I'll push it out in the socials. But Rob, you just released one recently. But tell folks where people can come and hang out with you.
Yeah, certainly you can find our podcast most easily at jtapodcast.com, certainly on any of your podcatchers that you prefer. And if you want to reach us on socials, good luck. But your best chance is probably on Twitter at JTA Podcast. And you can search us up on email at jtapodcast@gmail.com. So looking forward to putting out some more episodes remainder of this year. I know Ro was incredibly forlorn tonight because his guest was not going to be able to join due to life. So I threw it out there that maybe we should do something in that place. So you can thank Ro for throwing this all together.
A lot of fun, guys. And everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us throughout this 90 minutes of merry mayhem and Scare Scuttlebutt. You guys know where to find us. Give us a call, too. We love hearing your beautiful voices. I know Nick, Backyard TARDIS, has called us and left us messages. The Scare Scuttlebutt hotline is 773-234-8659. That's 773-234-8659. Give us a call. What is Sean staring at? May the force be with you.
What's
all.
next? We're going to accept postcards next too with voicemail. What are you talking about?
Send us your mimeographs Make sure your baud rate is set to high. This is Ro on behalf of Chantel and Brad. Stay safe wherever you're at. May the force be with you. And that's the Scuttlebutt. Yo!